Welcome back, everyone. Before we dive in, make sure you drop your thoughts and the lessons you took from this story in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe. Let's get into it. My ex is back in town and wants to catch up. You do not need to know the details, Serena said, smirking as she leaned against the bedroom doorframe, thumb drifting lazily over her phone screen. My name is Brandon Lewis, and I am 34 years old. In that moment, I was standing over an open suitcase on our bed in our apartment in Houston, carefully rolling shirts and pressing down the zipper, pretending that sentence had not just echoed through my skull. Sure, I said, because that is what I did. I agreed. I smoothed things over. I kept the peace. Out loud, my voice was calm. Inside, it felt like someone had opened a small crack in the foundation of my life, and cold air was leaking through. The suitcase lay open beside the printed itinerary I had checked 3 times already. Hawaii. 7 days at a luxury resort on Maui. An overwater-style villa on stilts just off the shoreline that cost more per night than my first car. I had saved for 6 months to make it happen. I picked up extra consulting projects on weekends, put in late nights at the firm, skipped every game night and most Friday dinners out with friends so the bank account would be strong enough to take the hit. This was supposed to be the trip, the celebration for our 3-year anniversary. But if I was honest, it was also a last attempt to pull her back to me. Serena had been slipping away in slow motion for weeks. It was not the normal kind of distance, not the tough week at work kind. It was her phone suddenly always face down on the table. It was the way she took calls on the balcony or in the bathroom with the water running, speaking just low enough that I could not make out the words. It was the new passcode she never bothered to say out loud. Every time I asked what was wrong, she handed me a line from the same tired script. "You are overthinking it, Brandon," Serena said one night while she rinsed dishes and avoided my eyes. "I'm just tired." Another time, when I pressed, she snapped, "Why do you always have to make everything about you?" I told myself the trip would fix it. Islands, blue water, and time away from notifications would force us to look at each other again. I folded a crisp linen shirt and placed it carefully on top of the stack. "Did you pack the sunscreen?" I asked, trying to keep things light. Serena did not answer. She sat at her vanity, head bent over her phone, aggressively texting someone. Her thumbs moved so fast they blurred in the mirror. Then she smiled at the screen, a real smile that started in her eyes and softened her whole face, the kind of smile I had not seen directed at me in months. "Serena," I said. She jumped, flipping her phone over as if it had burned her. "God, Brandon, you startled me," she said, pressing a hand to her chest. "What sunscreen?" "The one for Hawaii," I replied, keeping my voice even. "Did you pack it?" "We leave for the airport in 36 hours. She rolled her eyes and reached for a makeup brush. "Yes, Brandon, I packed the sunscreen," Serena said, dusting powder across her face. "You do not have to micromanage me. I am capable of packing a bag." "I know you are capable," I said quietly. "I'm just excited." "Yes, well, contain it," she muttered, turning back to her reflection. "It is just a vacation. You are acting like we are going to the moon. Just a vacation." It was a $12,000 trip entirely on my dime. Serena had not contributed a cent, which I had convinced myself was fine because I made more money. Still, the way she dismissed it stung. It felt less like I was taking my partner to a place most people dream about, and more like I was dragging a bored teenager to a mandatory family reunion. I walked over and gently placed a hand on her shoulder. Her skin was warm under my palm, but she went rigid the second I touched her. She did not pull away, yet her body turned to stone like she was waiting for an unwelcome bird to fly off. "I'm almost done packing," I said softly. "Maybe tonight we can order Thai food, finish picking out what we were going to do the first day, watch a movie." Serena flicked her eyes down her watch. It was 7:30 p.m. on a Tuesday. "I cannot," she said abruptly, standing up so quickly the chair squeaked against the hardwood floor. "I have to go out." My stomach dipped. "Go out? Where?" "We have a flight Thursday morning." "Just drinks with the girls," Serena said, reaching for her purse. She walked to her dresser, sprayed on the expensive perfume I had bought her for Christmas, and checked herself in the full-length mirror. The dress she wore hugged every line of her body. Her hair was perfectly done, lipstick sharp. She looked less like someone going to casual drinks and more like someone meeting a date at a dimly lit lounge. Which girls? I asked, watching her slip into a pair of heels. Serena spun around, her expression hardening. Why do you need a guest list? She demanded. Do you want to track my location now? Brandon, stop being so suffocating. This is exactly why I need a break sometimes. I'm not being suffocating, I said, fighting to keep my voice level. I'm just asking. I will be back later, she cut me off. Do not wait up. She walked out of the bedroom, down the hallway, and out the front door. A second later, I heard the lock click. I stood there in the quiet apartment that I paid for, looking at the open suitcase filled with neatly folded clothes for a woman who could not stand to be in the same room with me for more than a few minutes. That was the moment the denial started to crack. It did not shatter yet. I was still the man who fixed things. That was my role. I paid the rent. I planned the dates. I handled the crises. I thought I could handle this, too, if I just tried a little harder than last time. Serena came home at 2 o'clock in the morning. I was awake, staring at the ceiling in the dark, listening for the sound of her key in the lock. When the door opened, the smell came in before she did, a cloud of expensive cologne that did not belong to me, tangled with gin and whatever perfume she had sprayed on earlier. She did not come into the bedroom. She moved around the living room, dropped her heels, shuffled the cushions, and then the couch springs creaked under her weight. A soft sigh. Silence. I lay there, every muscle tight, listening to the distant hum of the refrigerator, feeling the space between us stretch like an endless hallway. The next morning, Wednesday, the day before our flight, the air in the apartment felt heavy and sour. I made coffee and set a mug at her usual spot on the counter. Serena walked into the kitchen, hair pulled into a loose bun, eyes shadowed. She glanced at the mug and then reached for a bottle of water instead. Are you hungover? I asked. Please just stop talking, she said flatly, twisting the cap off. I do not have the energy. We both got dressed for work without saying another word. In the mirror, my tie looked too tight. My eyes looked older than they had the week before. On the drive to downtown, I stared straight ahead, hands at 10 and 2, the highway signs blurring past. At the office, my computer screen filled with spreadsheets and emails, but my mind replayed the night before over and over, like a replay I could not switch off. Around mid-morning, my co-worker Tyrone stepped into my doorway, holding a folder. You all right, Brandon? He asked, leaning against the frame. You look like you have been hit by a truck. I am fine, I said automatically. Just tired. I have a flight tomorrow. Serena is going with you, right? The Hawaii trip you talked about. Tyrone asked. That is the one you have been saving for. I nodded. That is the one. He watched me for a second, then said quietly, I hope she knows what you are doing for her. I did not answer. I did not trust my voice. Over lunch, I pushed food around my plate in the company cafeteria, barely tasting anything. Tyrone sat across from me, phone face down, watching me the way you watch someone who is about to admit something. You want to talk about it? He asked. Not really, I said, but I think I have to. So I told him. Not every detail, not the parts that still felt like open wounds, but enough. The late nights, the turned-over phone, the secretive smiles. The drinks with the girls that did not sound like girls. Tyrone listened without interrupting. When I finished, he shook his head. You need to decide what your line is, Brandon, he said. If you do not have one, someone like that will draw it for you, right under your feet. Around noon, I forced myself to send Serena a text. Hey, just checking in. Still on for dinner tonight to finalize packing. I stared at the screen, waiting for the typing indicator to appear. Nothing. I tried to focus on afternoon meetings, but every time my phone buzzed, I felt a jolt. 4 hours later, just before I left the office, her reply finally came. We need to talk when I get home. Those words are the quiet knock of the relationship Grim Reaper. I closed my laptop and told Tyrone I was heading out early. Good luck, he said. Whatever happens, remember you are allowed to look out for yourself. Back at the apartment, I sat on the couch, hands clasped, listening to the faint tick of the thermostat on the wall. The suitcase still waited on the bed in the bedroom, half full, its open mouth like a question. At 6 o'clock, the front door opened. Serena stepped inside. She did not look sad. She looked composed, like someone who had rehearsed a speech. She dropped her keys on the counter and leaned against it, arms crossed. So, Serena said, no hello, no smile. I need to tell you something before we go on this trip. My pulse jumped. All right, I said. Is this about last night? Sort of, Serena replied. Damon is back in town. The air seemed to thin. Damon, I repeated. I thought he lived in New York now. Damon was the college boyfriend, the one she had dated for 3 years before he left for a finance job on Wall Street. The one she had once called the one that got away before I asked her not to use that phrase around me. He was in New York, Serena said. He moved back. He messaged me a few days ago. I stared at her. And that is who you were with last night? Serena did not flinch. Yes, she said. We caught up. It has been years, Brandon. He is going through a lot right now, and he needed a friend. A friend, I said, standing up slowly. The anger rose in my chest, hot and sharp. You stayed out until 2 o'clock in the morning with your ex-boyfriend 2 days before our anniversary trip, while I was here packing her bags. Serena exhaled in an exaggerated sigh and rolled her eyes. See, this reaction right here, she said. This is why I did not tell you. You get so insecure and jealous. It is not attractive, Brandon. It is not insecurity, Serena. It is respect, I said. Did you sleep with him? The room went very quiet. Serena looked at me, and I saw something flicker behind her eyes. Not guilt, not shame, but calculation. She was measuring how much truth she could tell while still keeping me where she wanted me. We just talked, Serena said finally, but there was no weight behind it. He is different now. He is successful. He is exciting. He wants to take me to dinner tonight to finish our conversation because we did not have enough time last night. I stared at her. Tonight? I asked. The night before we fly to Hawaii. Yes, tonight, Serena said. He leaves for a business trip on Friday, so this is my only chance to see him for a while. I told him I would meet him at 8. She spoke like she was informing me she had a dentist appointment, not a second private evening with a man she used to love. You are prioritizing a dinner with your ex over our night before we travel? I asked, my voice dropping into a calm I did not recognize in myself. What exactly do you need to talk about that takes 2 nights and stretches past midnight? Serena grabbed her purse from the table and walked to the hallway mirror, adjusting her earrings and tracing her lipstick. Then she turned to face me, and there it was, the smirk. Not a real smile. A half lift of one side of her mouth that said she believed she was untouchable. She knew I had paid for the flights, the resort, every piece of it. She knew I had bent my life around her cycles of warmth and cold. She believed there was nothing I would do but accept it. You do not need to know the details, Brandon, Serena said, that smirk deepening. It is called privacy. Damon and I have a history, and I need closure if I'm going to fully commit to you on this trip. Honestly, you should be thanking me for being honest enough to tell you. Do not be insecure. It makes you look small. She slid the purse strap over her shoulder and walked toward the door. I will be back in the morning to grab my suitcase for the airport. You can call the rideshare for 8 o'clock a.m. She looked at me, waiting for me to beg, to plead, to argue, waiting for some proof that she still had the power to wreck me, then soothe me. Something inside me snapped, but it did not break in a dramatic way. It was a quiet shift, like a heavy steel door sliding into place on hidden tracks and locking from the inside. I looked at Serena, really looked at her, and understood that I did not love this version of her. I did not even hate her. She had become a bad investment I had clung to because I did not want to admit I had misread the market. I exhaled, relaxed my shoulders, and let my expression go blank. Sure, I said. Her smirk flickered for a heartbeat. Sure, I repeated, walking to the refrigerator to grab a bottle of water. If you need closure, go get it. That makes sense. Serena studied my face, searching for an explosion, a crack, anything. When she found nothing, her confidence flowed back. The smirk returned, brighter, almost triumphant. Good, Serena said, patting my arm as she passed, her tone dripping with condescension. I'm glad you're finally growing up. See you in the morning. Have the bag by the door. Have fun, I said. She walked out and closed the door behind her. I listened to the echo of her heels down the hallway until it faded. Then I waited 10 seconds, walked to the door, and looked through the peephole. Serena was at the far end of the corridor, already texting, her steps light and bouncy. When she turned the corner and disappeared, I went to the kitchen counter, picked up my phone, and unlocked it. I did not cry. I did not raise my voice. I scrolled to the number for the travel concierge service I had used when I booked the trip and pressed call. "Thank you for calling Platinum Travel Support," the woman on the line said. "How may I assist you this evening?" "Hi," I said. My voice sounded almost unfamiliar to my own ears. Steady, precise, cold. "My name is Brandon Lewis. I have a reservation for 2 to Maui tomorrow morning. I need to make changes to the booking immediately." "Yes, Mr. Lewis," she said. "Let me pull that up. One moment, please." I waited, staring at the open suitcase on the bed. "I see your reservation," she said. "What would you like to change?" "I need to split the booking," I replied. "Keep the itinerary for Brandon Lewis. Cancel the ticket for Serena Walker." There was a pause, and I could hear the soft clicking of a keyboard. "Sir," the agent said carefully, "this appears to be a non-refundable booking. If you cancel her portion less than 24 hours before departure, you will not receive a credit." "I understand," I said. "I do not want a credit. I want her name removed from the manifest, and I would like to use the seat availability to upgrade my ticket to first class." There was another pause. "That will be a significant additional charge," she said. "Do it," I replied. "The card on file is fine." We went through confirmations, verification codes, final checks. It took 10 minutes. In 10 minutes, I quietly rewrote the ending of a 3-year relationship. When the confirmation email arrived, I opened it and read every line. One passenger. Seat 1A. First class. Departure time unchanged. Instead of the sting I expected, I felt something else. Lightness, like setting down a suitcase I had been carrying inside my chest. I walked back into the bedroom. The suitcase Serena had mocked me for fussing over still lay open on the bed. I unzipped it fully and removed anything that belonged to both of us. The extra phone chargers, the camera she loved to use for social media, the small first aid kit. I repacked only what I needed. Then I went to the closet, pulled down my old duffel bag from the top shelf, and filled it with the things that mattered for the life after this trip. My passport, my laptop, my birth certificate, my watches, the envelope of cash I kept hidden behind folded socks. I stepped back and looked around the apartment. Everything in sight came from my paychecks. The large television mounted on the wall, the leather sectional, the glass dining table with metal legs she had insisted on, the artwork we had picked out on a weekend in Austin, the Dyson vacuum she said we needed. I could not take it all with me tonight, but I could make sure none of it turned into a permanent safety net for her. I pulled out my phone again, opened the landlord's online portal, and submitted a notice of intent to vacate, effective at the end of the month, accepting the penalty fee. Then I called the electric company and the internet provider, scheduling disconnection for 1 week after my return from Hawaii. Serena would have 7 days to decide how to live without my steady hand on every bill. I checked the time. 9:15 p.m. By then, Serena and Damon were probably halfway through their second round of drinks, sharing old memories, laughing about my predictable nature. The irony made my mouth twist into something that was not quite a smile. I took one last look around the apartment. I did not leave a note. I did not leave a stack of cash on the counter. I did not leave a single flower. I went to the small ceramic bowl by the door and picked up the spare key Serena always tossed there because she hated carrying it. I walked to the kitchen sink, flipped on the light above it, and dropped the key into the dark mouth of the garbage disposal. I did not flip the switch. I just left it there, lodged in metal, unreachable. I wheeled my suitcase to the door, slung the duffel bag over my shoulder, stepped into the hallway, and locked the deadbolt behind me. In the elevator, I ordered a ride to the airport hotel. I was not going to wait for morning and risk a scene when Serena stumbled in drunk and outraged. At the hotel, the lobby was bright and anonymous, a neutral space between old life and new. The receptionist checked me into a room with a king-size bed and thick curtains. When I lay down, the silence felt different from the silence at home. It did not feel accusing. It felt like possibility. Just before I closed my eyes, my phone buzzed. Serena, having such a deep talk with Damon. Time is flying. Do not wait up. I might be late. Make sure my carry-on is by the door. Love you. I looked at the words. They felt like spam. I deleted the entire conversation and set my phone on the nightstand. The next morning, I sat in the first-class lounge at the airport at 7:30 a.m., surrounded by polished floors, soft chairs, and a low murmur of other travelers. A plate of Eggs Benedict sat in front of me next to a glass of orange juice with champagne. The tight, buzzing anxiety that had lived in my chest for months had been replaced by a cold, clear focus. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows, I watched airplanes glide along the tarmac. My phone lay face up on the table. I had set it to Do Not Disturb, but I had allowed notification from Serena to pass through silently. I wanted to see the exact moments when her story collided with reality. At 7:45 a.m., a message appeared. Serena, heading back now. My head hurts. Did you call the ride? I took a sip of my drink and pictured her in the back of a car I had not ordered, squinting against the sunlight, checking the time on her phone with a growing knot in her stomach. At 8:10 a.m., Brandon, I am at the apartment. Why is the door locked? I left my key inside. She had no idea that the only working key sat in my pocket. At 8:12 a.m., pick up the phone. I'm banging on the door. Are you in the shower? We're going to be late. Calls came in, one after another. I let them roll to missed call notifications. I buttered a piece of toast. At 8:20 a.m., another text. I got the superintendent to open the door. Where are you? Where's your suitcase? Why is the closet open? She had reached the impact zone. She had seen the empty hangers where my suits had been, the missing laptop, the absence of my watch case. But her mind was not built to accept consequences quickly. She was probably telling herself I had gone to the airport early in a fit of wounded pride. At 8:22 a.m., you petty man, you went to the airport without me because of last night? Seriously? A minute later, fine. I'm calling a ride. You better be at the check-in desk with my ticket. This is so immature. I checked my boarding pass. Boarding began at 8:45 a.m. The drive from our old neighborhood to the airport in morning traffic could easily take 30 minutes. I finished my breakfast, gathered my things, and walked to the gate. As I scanned my boarding pass, the phone vibrated again. I ignored it, stepped onto the jet bridge, and found my seat. Welcome aboard, Mr. Lewis, the flight attendant said, taking my jacket and gesturing toward the wide leather seat waiting for me. Would you like a pre-flight beverage? Champagne, please, I said. The doors closed at 9:10 a.m. The plane pushed back from the gate. My phone lit up again. Serena, I am at the counter. Where are you? I do not see you. Another text. Brandon, stop playing games. The agent is asking for my passport. Come over here. I pictured her standing at the counter, hair slightly messy, clutching her passport, insisting there must be some kind of mistake. A few minutes later, what did you do? She says my ticket is invalid. She says it was canceled. She says you were on the plane. Pick up the phone right now. A voice message arrived soon after. I put in my earbuds and pressed play. The recording was full of airport noise overhead, announcements, and Serena's voice climbing higher with every word. Brandon, this is not funny, she said. She says you're in seat 1A. Get off the plane. You cannot just leave me here. I do not have money on me. I just need you to come fix this. How could you cancel my ticket? I am your girlfriend. The engines roared as the plane turned onto the runway. The vibration thrummed through the floor and up my legs. Another text came in rapidly. Please. Everyone is staring at me. I am crying. Tell them it is a mistake. Come back. We have a life. I love you. I am sorry about the smirk. I was tired. I did not mean it. Just come back. The plane accelerated, pressing me back into the seat. The terminal shrank in the window. The runway lines blurred, then disappeared as we lifted into the air. The city fell away into toy-sized buildings and thin ribbons of highway. Somewhere below, in a crowded terminal, Serena was learning in real time that the man she thought would always come back no matter what had just chosen to keep going. At 10,000 feet, the seatbelt sign chimed off and the Wi-Fi indicator glowed softly above the aisle. I opened our message thread, scrolled past the insults, the frantic apologies, the sudden declarations of love that had nothing to do with me and everything to do with losing her safety net. Then I typed 2 sentences. You wanted privacy with him. I am giving you all the privacy in the world. Do not be insecure. I sent the message, watched the small delivered indicator appear, and then blocked her number. I reclined my seat into a flat position, unfolded the blanket, and put on my noise-canceling headphones. A movie played on the screen in front of me, but half the time I watched the clouds instead, drifting in long white stretches below the wing. For the first time in 3 years, I did not feel the need to check who was calling, who was texting, or what expression Serena had on her face while she stared at a screen. When we landed in Honolulu and then boarded the smaller plane to Maui, I walked through the connecting terminal with a light carry-on and a strange sense that I had somehow stepped into a different version of my own life. At the airport on Maui, a driver holding a sign with my last name waited just past baggage claim. "Mr. Lewis?" he asked, smiling. "Welcome to Hawaii." The air was warm and carried the smell of salt and something floral. "Thank you," I said. We headed toward the resort in a black SUV, driving along a coastal road where the Pacific Ocean stretched out on one side and green hills rose up on the other. "Will Mrs. Lewis be joining us later?" the driver asked politely. I let out a small breath. "Plans changed," I said. "It is just me." He glanced at me in the rearview mirror, registered the finality in my voice, and nodded. "Sometimes a solo trip is exactly what a person needs," he said. I watched the shoreline and let that sink in. The resort sat on a stretch of beach, its walkways winding through palm trees and low buildings. The lobby opened onto an unobstructed view of the ocean, sunlight scattering across the surface like broken glass. Reception staff greeted me by name, draped a lei of fresh flowers around my neck, and handed me a cold towel scented with lime and mint. A host escorted me along a wooden path to my villa, which sat on stilts above a shallow cove. "We had the villa prepared for 2 guests," he said as he slid the door open. "Would you like us to remove the second place setting from your private dinner this evening?" I looked at the table set for 2 and the bottle of champagne chilling in a silver bucket. "Yes," I said. "Make it just 1. Inside, the villa felt like something from a magazine, but standing there alone, it also felt like something else, a boundary. The floor had glass panels looking down into the clear water, where small fish darted between rocks. The bed was enormous, the linens bright white, the pillows piled high. Outside, a private infinity pool seemed to blend into the ocean beyond. I stepped out onto the deck, leaned on the railing, and listened. No traffic, no phones, just the steady rush of the Pacific against the shore and the distant sound of other people's laughter carried by the wind. I stayed like that until the angle of the sun changed and the water turned from bright blue to deep gold. For the first 2 days, I did not turn my phone's cellular data back on. I used the resort Wi-Fi only to play music and read the news. I swam in the pool until the muscles of my shoulders loosened. I walked barefoot on the sand early in the morning and late at night, when the beach was nearly empty. I booked a snorkeling excursion and found myself floating above a reef, fish moving beneath me in flashes of color. At night, I ate dinner alone at a small table by the water while the sky turned dark and the stars emerged one by one. In those quiet hours, I realized the tightness in my chest, the restless nights, the constant unease I had blamed on work deadlines had not come from my job at all. They had come from loving someone who treated my efforts like background noise. On the 3rd afternoon, I was lying on a netted lounge suspended over the water, a book open in one hand and a glass of cold water in the other, when my phone buzzed with a notification. I had turned cellular back on that morning. The number on the screen was unfamiliar. "Brandon, it is Serena," the message read. "I am using Latoya's phone because you blocked me. You need to stop this. I am scared." The landlord emailed and said the lease is being terminated. The power company sent a final notice. "Where are you? Are you seriously in Hawaii without me?" I stared at the message, then looked at the water below, sunlight flickering on the surface. Serena was still in chaos, still centering herself in every problem, still searching for a way to pull me back in so I could stabilize her life again. I did not type a long explanation. I did not attempt to soothe or correct her version of events. Words felt cheap compared to everything that had already happened. Instead, I opened the camera app. I framed the shot, my bare feet resting on the edge of the net, the curve of the infinity pool, the vast blue sweep of the Pacific stretching out to the horizon. A corner of the champagne bottle sat in the foreground, beads of condensation running down the side. I took the picture and attached it to the conversation. Then I typed one word. Details. I sent it and watched as the small red notification appeared almost immediately. The typing indicator flashed on and off in frantic bursts. Then the responses came in a flood. You arrogant man. How can you be this cold? I hate what you did. How could you embarrass me like that? Damon said you were too boring to ever leave me. He was wrong. You are cruel. You are selfish. You are going to regret this. The words stacked on top of each other in the chat window, crowded and desperate. I did not finish reading them. I blocked Latoya's number, turned the phone off again, walked into the villa, and placed it in the safe. That evening, I ate dinner under a sky full of stars, the sound of waves a constant, steady rhythm. Nobody was asking me to shrink to make them comfortable. I spent the rest of the week learning how to scuba dive, letting instructors guide me down into clear, quiet water where the noise of my life above the surface did not matter. When I returned to Houston 10 days later, my skin was darker from the sun, and my sense of myself felt different. While I'd been gone, I had signed a lease online for a loft downtown, closer to my office and far from a neighborhood where Serena and I had lived together. The new place was smaller, but filled with light from tall windows. Concrete floors, exposed brick, a simple kitchen. No memories embedded in the walls yet. The day I moved in, my mother called. Brandon, she said, your aunt mentioned you went to Hawaii by yourself. Is everything all right? I sat on an unopened box near the window and looked at the unfamiliar skyline. Serena and I are done, I said. There was a short silence. Do you want to come over for dinner and talk? She asked. Not yet, I said. But I promise you this. I am better off. My mother exhaled slowly. Then I am grateful, she said. No trip, no apartment, no name in the world is worth staying somewhere you are not respected. News of what happened reached me through mutual friends and social media. Damon, it turned out, was not the stable success Serena had imagined. He was working as an independent cryptocurrency consultant, living in a month-to-month apartment in Dallas, not a penthouse. When Serena showed up at his door with luggage, eyes red from crying, talking about how her controlling boyfriend had left her stranded and cut off the utilities, Damon did not invite her to move in. He drove her to her parents' house in a borrowed car, helped her carry the bags to the porch, and left. 2 days later, he stopped answering her calls altogether. Without my income, the old apartment became a countdown clock. After the lease termination notice and utility shutoff dates kicked in, Serena moved between her parents' house and Latoya's couch. She sold some of her designer handbags and shoes to cover her credit card payments. On social media, she posted quotes about betrayal, resilience, and choosing herself, carefully skipping over the choices that had brought her there. At the office, Tyrone stopped by my new glass-walled office one afternoon, holding 2 coffees. I heard she is telling everyone you ruined her life, he said, handing me one of the cups. People will say whatever lets them sleep at night, I replied. I'm finally getting some sleep of my own. About a month after I returned, I ran into Latoya at a coffee shop near my new place. I was wearing a suit on my way to meet a client. Latoya stood in line staring at the pastry case, then glanced up and saw me in the reflection. She flinched slightly, then turned around, forcing a smile. Brandon, she said. Hi. Hey, Latoya. I replied, genuinely calm. How are you? I'm all right, she said. You look good. I feel good, I said. How is Serena? Latoya's shoulders sagged. Honestly, it is a mess, she said. She has been staying on my couch half the time. She had to sell half her closet to pay her bills. She keeps saying you destroyed everything, but even the girls are tired of hearing about it. We told her she should not have met up with Damon like that. She did not want to listen. I glanced at my watch. People make their own choices, I said. She misses you, Latoya added quickly. She said if you just talk to her, maybe it could be fixed. She said she knows she messed up and that you overreacted. I held up a hand. Latoya, you do not need to carry this message, I said. She does not need closure from me. She had closure the second she found out her ticket was canceled. Latoya looked at me for a long moment, then nodded slowly. I guess that is fair, she said. I hope you find someone who actually deserves what you bring. Already found something, I said. My peace. 6 months later, my life looked very different. I had been promoted to partner in my firm. The workload increased, but for the first time in years, I did not dread coming home exhausted to walk into an emotional minefield. I joined a gym near my building and actually went. I started cooking for myself instead of ordering takeout for two. I caught up with friends I had not seen in too long. One evening at a coworker's birthday gathering in a restaurant in downtown Atlanta, I met Rochelle. She was an architect based in Charlotte, in town for a project, with a warm laugh and a way of listening that made you feel like your words landed instead of bounced off. We talked about design, about cities we wanted to visit, about how it felt to hit your 30s and realize you were allowed to redraw your life. She asked about my recent trip, and I told her the edited version. You went to Hawaii alone? Rochelle said, eyebrows raised. I did, I replied. It was overdue. That sounds like the kind of reset most people only talk about, she said. We exchanged numbers. Over the next weeks, our calls stretched longer. When Rochelle came back to Houston for another meeting, we met for dinner. She arrived early, already seated, already with a plan for the restaurant's menu. When the bill came, she reached for it without hesitation. We can split it, she said. I realized how unfamiliar that felt and how much I liked it. Months later, when we sat on my couch with a laptop between us, looking at flight options, Rochelle glanced at me. Are you sure you want to travel again so soon? She asked. I know you had that big trip not long ago. I thought about Hawaii, about the quiet of the villa and the chaos inside my phone, about the text that had ended something that should have ended earlier. I'm sure, I said. This is different. We settled on a trip to Seattle, a city neither of us had visited before, with mountains on one side and water on the other. Good, Rochelle said, because I fully intend to bring my own suitcase, pack my own things, and pay for my own coffee every morning. I laughed. That is exactly why I am booking the tickets. Every so often, my phone would buzz with a notification from a professional networking site. Someone viewed your profile, the alert would say. When I checked, it would show private mode user, but I did not need a name. I knew who it was. I did not block whatever window she used to watch. If Serena wanted to see the promotions, the new city photos, maybe one day a picture of Rochelle and me by the water somewhere, she could. That was not my burden. It was just another detail. I rarely think of the scene at the airport now, but when I do, it is not with guilt. I think of Serena standing at the counter, insisting there had to be a mistake, waiting for me to appear and smooth it over, as I always had. I think of the exact moment she realized I was already on the plane. That was the real shift. Not when I canceled the ticket, not when I dropped her key into the garbage disposal, but when I finally decided that being the man who fixed everything did not mean I was obligated to fix someone who treated me like a backup plan. Serena once told me not to be insecure, as if wanting basic respect was a flaw. In the end, I was not insecure at all. I was decisive. She wanted privacy with another man and believed I would wait exactly where she left me. I chose to give her what she asked for, all the privacy in the world from thousands of miles away on a beach where my only responsibility was to myself. If you enjoyed this story, please like, comment, and share this video with your friends. Subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a powerful story drop.